Hello everyone, it is December 14th, 2011, and the 2.2 patch has come around. I'll be reading some of the patch notes here and trying to explain what effect they have to the best of my ability. Starting off, probably the biggest change of this patch is the introduction of Stormcaller. I have some gameplay using this interesting new bloodline, so feel free to skip to that if you want. A few general features have been added to the Bloodgate, such as timers on the in-game sales. Players will have a unique free bloodline rotation, meaning that we'll be seeing more variety in the queues. Observer delay has been removed, thus spectators who are watching the game will see it as it happens as opposed to about 6 seconds later. Notable bug fixes include one where disturbance could reset a cooldown, making the target able to cast the same ability twice in a row. And Blood Priest no longer gets vulnerable for a short amount of time when traveling with possession. In terms of balance changes, Teleport Medallion now costs 80 energy instead of 50. This makes Medallion Expert more useful given how it will reduce the new cost by 12 for the total cost of 68, whereas before it was reduced by 7.5, making the cost about 42. Breakstone's energy cost has gone down to 35 from 40, making it possible to use it after having taken the energy rune and using a single ability. Frost Shard now applies gradual slow after the end cap has fallen off, reducing the target speed to 0, then back to normal over a duration of 1.5 seconds, thus making it better for burst combos that involve AoEs. The Voidstone Callbout Medallion has been added to the game. The Voidstone draws all enemies within the AoE effect towards the center after a 0.3 second delay. The most obvious and probably cost-efficient use of this is to bring a target back into an AoE ult, as the medallion deals no damage nor applies any debuffs on its own. Spearmaster's EX2 ability Javelin has received a velocity tweak, going down to 260 from 300. Reinite Assassin got a bug fix regarding his Toxin Bomb not slowing the target correctly, in addition to getting a slight nerf to how much slow effect is applied by the Toxin Bomb. Seeker had a bug where Earth Arrow wouldn't weaken healing properly. That has been fixed now. His ultimate got a buff. The cast time has been reduced by a third. The impact damage was taken up by 40%. The tick damage was increased by 50%. This is probably because most Seeker ults have their ending burst avoided by immaterial outs, so this increases the mostly unavoidable part of his ult, which should make it more impacting to its targets. Mel Warden's M2 ability Charge Shot now requires you to push the button again after cancelling it. This makes the ability more newbie friendly and easier to fake cast, but can be a bit annoying to those who've already mastered fake casting it with the old system. Her shield Iron Claw used to stop certain dash attacks such as Puncturing Strike and Spearmaster's EX Base, which goes through targets. However, they should no longer get interrupted when hitting a target affected by it. The visual effect has also been changed to be more noticeable. Comment below what you think about the new look. Her EX2 Healing Beam is getting a buff in terms of how long it takes to channel, but is getting a 7 hit point nerf in how much healing it actually does in its duration. This can lead to it being more unforgiving if the beam doesn't hit a teammate for a short period of time. And lastly, if her ultimate hits reverse parry, it will not deal the impact damage but will still create the AoE effect. Vanguard's taunt is getting a 25% nerf on the duration of his Blood Fury buff. It applies to the Vanguard, letting him get healing from it faster, but allows less time for it to build up. Also, the area on his ultimate is getting a 20% reduction, meaning that targets will have to be grouped closer together to get incapped by the splash damage. Psychopomp's EX ability Death Scream is getting a 20% nerf on the fear's duration, and thus affected enemies will only run 80% of the distance they did before. A bug was fixed with Grimrock Space that caused it to not trigger when self-casted while being knocked back. Blood Priest went on a diet, reducing his size by 7%. Kudos to him for his determination. His shield now breaks after absorbing more than 250 damage. This requires the target to take 750 damage during its duration. Also, how long it lasts has been increased by 20%, giving the target more time to take that much damage. Herald of Insight's Q ability, Mantra of Devotion, has been completely reworked, becoming a target ground AoE that heals allies for a small amount. Healing is increased by a small amount and affects enemies within by a 30% weaken and knocks them back slightly. This makes Herald a lot better at peeling enemies off at range without losing position, and can now heal over walls if an ally is line of sighted for a second. His EX Sphere is getting a 9% buff to the damage, but no longer inflicts the Amplify-like debuff from before, instead now inflicting a 6/10 of a second stun, making it more useful in a passive Herald style, as the knockback usually takes the enemy out of optimum DPS range, but at the same time making it better setup for combos. His EXQ ability Time Rift now also restores up to 200 lost health if the Herald has taken damage during the last 3 seconds. Astronomer Space is getting a 35% speed buff, and the cast time was taken down to 0.2 seconds. The area that his space heals or damaged for is reduced by about 29%. Also, the healing received by his space was buffed by 25%. His EX space is getting similar changes. And lastly, for the patch notes, Alchemist's Sleep File is getting a 25 increase in cast time, making it a bit easier to trance or dodge. Anyway, that's all for the patch notes. I have some Stormcaller gameplay coming up here in a second, so I'll see you there. Hey there everyone, I'm Shufflecat and welcome to Shuffle Showcase. Stormcaller has been released for standard games and, custom games and that sort of thing. So naturally, the first thing that I did was just hop on and play a couple games with him. I found him really, really fun to play. He has definitely a high amount of damage. I've been seeing on all of my games whenever I... at the end of every round, I have about like 5,000 damage, and I've probably tanked about less than 1,800 usually. So he is a really heavy damage dealer. Just like any other range, if you ignore him, he's going to give you a little bit of problems. However, I have noticed that he has this problem against dealing with melee pressure. A lot of times if a glutton jumps on me, I have very little that I can do against him after I've used my E ability, which is this tornado, and it really doesn't even last that long. It only lasts for like a second and a half, so it's really not that great. I love his ultimate ability. Every time I use it, I of course, I'm a 12-year-old just like everybody else. I will yell, "Unlimited power!" Yes, and that is what you absolutely have to say. And there his EX2 ability, his EX space. What happens is if you space into somebody, you will jump to the nearest target, and then if there's a nearby target after that, you'll jump to that one as well. See, there we go. We have 4,800 damage, and I only tanked like 2,000, so it's thereabouts where I was talking about 5,000 and 1,800. That's the thereabouts range of where I usually go. But anyway, his EX space is really good for just dealing a huge amount of damage for everyone. Does it do the static? No, it does. Oh, yes, it does. Okay, his EX space does deal static just like his normal space does. I was just a little bit curious about that. So it's really good because you can quickly put static on everybody, and then just do a whole bunch of M1s and deal huge amounts of damage. Usually my top damage dealing is of course the M1, like usually with most bloodlines, your M1 will be your highest damage dealer, and of course a close second with my M2. A really good combo that I might have been doing there because I wasn't watching necessarily is you can space into somebody, which applies that gradual slow, which makes people really, really slow. In fact, actually, you can put the gradual slow on them and then use your ultimate. It makes it really difficult for them to escape, especially since your ultimate puts a 20% slow on them. And that's of course a tick slow, which means that it keeps on getting reapplied every time it deals damage. So the gradual slow ensures that they're going to be inside of it for the first tick, and then the other slow is pretty much guaranteed that they're gonna stay in there. And of course, if you use it directly after their outs go on cooldown, then of course you can use that on them as well. Now, also, I've been hearing a lot of people complaining about his Q ability, the AoE Storm. that it's kind of hard to get the end burst of it to apply to somebody. Let me just scroll over it so that people can see it a little bit more. Is at the very end, it does a lightning burst that stuns people. It's a little bit like Volcano, only if the volcano kind of burned people in it before it burst open. That sort of thing. People have been saying that it's a bit difficult to keep people in it because it takes so long for it to burst, and of course people can just walk out. However, once again, if you use your space on somebody and then, or you can mess around with the timing and stuff. I haven't exactly figured out the exact order that you use your abilities on somebody, but your space can help keep people inside of your Q AoE. And of course you can see right here, I'm going up against 2 melees, and I'm doing fine in surviving, so he doesn't have a complete lack of survival. It's just that it can be a little bit tough to peel somebody off of you. Anyway, so like I was saying, your space can help you combo up your Q. And of course, also because your Q ends with a stun, that allows you to hit both of your bolts, or spread your bolts between the two. If you don't know how his bolts work, it's pretty much if you hit both of your bolts, if you hit both of your M2 bolts on somebody, if both of them hit, the people who are hit by the bolts get silenced. If you hit the same person twice, then only that person gets silenced. But if you hit 2 separate people, then both of them get silenced. So the stun can help you lead up one of your targets to get hit by your bolt, or you can line it up so that both of your bolts hit. There is a half second between the bolts, I'm pretty sure. Yes, it's over a half second, so I'm not sure if that's when the first one's going out or something like that, but there is a half second between them. So it can be a little bit difficult to hit 2 different targets if they're far away. A tip that I have for players who are trying to master doing that is, say for instance, my character's right here, right? And if I wanted to aim at this guy, and if I were aiming really far, like if I was aiming behind him, like you can see right here, and if I aimed behind him and then I wanted to aim behind him, my mouse has to move a farther distance. However, if my mouse were closer to my body, I could make the same angle changes with less distance. That of course makes it a little bit tough to aim if your mouse is like really close to your body or something like that. So naturally, I'm assuming that eventually people who master this bloodline will be getting their mouse a little bit closer to their character than most people do, and that can help you with that aim, and it is possible to do. You just have to practice it a little bit, in my opinion. So that's it for the first game. We're going to go into the second game right here. And welcome back. Last time we were doing a healer comp versus healer comp game, and I kind of wanted to show this game off because it was a non-healer comp versus a healer comp, and it kind of illustrates his ability, that is Stormcaller's ability to survive without a healer. And some of the things that you can do, say if you have a melee who's trying to tunnel on you, or if you're going up against other ranged. Now, Stormcaller against other ranged is, in my opinion, really, really good. I've been going up against certain igniters, and to be completely honest, it really feels like igniters can't really do all that much against a Stormcaller. He seems to have the advantage in that particular lineup, and what that might actually have to do with it is because of his Q ability. It's pretty much the same as Igniter's Q ability, yes, but the difference is that before the enemy walks out of Stormcaller's Q, he actually deals damage. You're almost guaranteed to deal 120 damage. Like that, Spearmaster took 2 ticks, so he only took 80 damage. But if he took 1 more tick, he would have taken 120. So, in my opinion, you're guaranteed to deal about 80 to 120 damage with your Q. However, with the Igniter, if somebody walks out of your Q, they get no damage whatsoever. So it's kind of a hit or miss kind of an ability, whereas Stormcaller isn't. I'm a I feel a little bit bad about his damage numbers, because actually if you add it up, I'm pretty sure he deals like 40 damage more than a volcano. That seems a little bit overpowered in terms of numbers, especially since it also deals a slow on it. But that could just be fixed with a very slight numbers change. Now, I'm waiting for this astronomer to use his space, and I didn't actually wait for it, so that's what happened there, is he didn't space, so my ultimate got completely whiffed. If I would have waited for him to space, if I would have just pressured him a little bit more, then I would have done better. There we saw his R ability. In my opinion, it's a little bit tough to do. It can be a bit tough to master. So, but once you have mastered it, it's probably going to be his main defensive ability. There we see I did 4,600 damage and only took 300 damage. So he's definitely a bloodline that you have to pay attention to. And he relies so much on his R ability when people are paying attention to him and pressuring him, that it's something that will require a lot of practice for people who are interested in mastering this bloodline. What I've found is really useful, and some people have given me the tip of doing this, is to pretty much double tap your R in order to deploy it immediately. That is to say that the R is immediately shot out, the little blades immediately come out, and that way you can push people off and deal damage to them. I'm pretty sure, no, it does not deal slow. I thought it did for a second there. So it's kind of like double tap R is a good way of peeling somebody off if they're in melee range. A really good thing to note is that you don't have to shift cast it. If you're using it on yourself, if you're deploying the blades on yourself, you can actually just hit R. So it's kind of like shift R, then tap R is the way of doing it. I will at some point be testing whether or not you can cast an ability and hit your R for the second time again. That is a question that I would definitely like to have answered. In terms of its usability, it's a little bit difficult to do because of how long it takes to hit your button twice, essentially. And the problem with it is a glutton will typically do too much damage during that time. So there's a little bit of Stormcaller's gameplay there. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I'll see you next time.